we've been trying to do a few things for our older readers. So I've been reading Time Cat by Lloyd Alexander. And we did the first chapter of the last session, so we're going to do the second chapter now. It's about Jason and his cat Gareth, who is a black cat with a special mark on his chest, a white mark on his chest. And Gareth has the ability to take his friend Jason with him through to different time periods. So now we're going into Egypt, 2700 BC. Chapter 2, The Sacred City of Cats. A white sun, a green-blue sky. In a grove of palm trees, a temple rose at the end of a long avenue. Jason, with Gareth at his side, walked through a courtyard that seemed to stretch for miles. "Why, we're in Egypt," Jason said in a hushed voice. He knew this with certainty, then wondered how he knew. He suspected that Gareth had somehow given him the knowledge. Jason saw that even his clothing was Egyptian, a length of white linen tied around his waist. Perhaps this was all part of the cat's strange power. "We've really come this far. We could have gone farther," Gareth said. "But this is a good place to start, for a cat at least. The Egyptians worship us, you know. Worship cats." "Indeed they do," Gareth said. "They're fond of us, just as cats, you understand. And they worship us too. They have all kinds of sacred animals, but the cat is most important. We're sacred to the great goddess Bast of the sun and the moon." In the distance, Jason heard the sound of flutes and drums approaching. Gareth stopped in front of a statue of Bast herself. Cat-headed, she wore a long, clinging robe. In one hand, the goddess held a sacred rattle, in the other a shield. At her feet crouched 4 stone kittens. Gareth leaped to the base of the statue. "There's a festival every year here in Bubastis," he said. "It's the sacred city of the cat goddess, and the ceremonies are very fancy. Get behind the statue and you can watch. I'll stay here." Gareth squeezed in among the kittens. With his tail curled around in front of him, his ears up, he sat motionless as a statue himself. The music grew louder. Worshippers began to fill the courtyard. Jason couldn't begin to count them, but he guessed there must be thousands. Lines of white-robed priests swayed along the avenue toward the temple. Some carried sacred rattles, others held staves topped by glittering golden statues of cats. Chanting voices filled the air with the hymn to the great cat. "Thy head is the head of the sun god. Thy nose is the nose of Thoth. Thine ears are the ears of Osiris, who hears the voice of all who call upon him." Jason understood the language as if he had always known it. Was this more of Gareth's magic? The music of the flutes wavered like pale blue streaks against the clouds. As the procession passed, the crowd followed after. Some were dressed in robes or skirts of linen. They carried great baskets of flowers and trays of fruit. The worshippers took up the chant, "Thy mouth is the mouth of Atum. Thy heart is the heart of Ta. Thy teeth are the teeth of the moon god." The music and singing filled Jason's whole body as the hymn continued. "Thy whiskers are the rays of the sun. Thine eyes hold the sun and the moon." Then it stopped, and there was silence. "Oh, bless you." As if the top of the sky had been lifted off. All at once, a powerful voice cried out, "Hear us, great cat, sayer of great words." The temple doors were opening. The worshippers streamed up the white steps. Finally, when the last of the crowd had passed, Jason ventured out from behind the statue, hoping to follow them. He had taken no more than 2 steps when something gripped him tightly and uncomfortably. Jason twisted around and found himself looking up at a white-robed, shaven-headed man who scowled angrily at him. With one hand, the man held a roll of papyrus. With the other Jason's ear. "Wretched boy," cried the man, "reveal your business here. If you come to worship at the temple, why do you hide behind the statue?" There were several scribes, Jason saw, all carrying bundles of papyrus scrolls or clay tablets. Just then Gareth hopped down, and as soon as chief scribe caught sight of him, he let go of Jason's ear. "Behold, behold this cat! On his chest he bears the mark of the sacred Ankh, symbol of life." The scribes dropped to their knees. Gareth sat down and began to wash. After the scribes had got through worshiping and Gareth had got through washing, the chief scribe reached into a fold of his robe and brought out a leather purse. "My dear friend," said the chief scribe in an oily voice, "forgive me for pinching your ear. I didn't realize you were accompanied by such a curiously marked creature. Tell me one thing, how much gold will you take for him?" "Sell my cat," Jason cried indignantly. "Oh, crafty maker of letters," interrupted one of the minor scribes. "It would be less expensive if we simply took this cat and left the boy in the care of the sacred crocodiles." The chief scribe stroked his chin and looked carefully at Jason. "Your suggestion has merit," he said. "I was, in fact, about to say the same thing." "Oh, learned keeper of scrolls," the sub-minor scribe ventured timidly. "Remember, the cat bears the sacred Ankh. It is a powerful sign. Who knows what vengeance he might take?" "My objection exactly," said the chief scribe. "I don't know who you are," Jason burst in, "but I don't think you have any right to stand there and talk about taking somebody's cat away and throwing somebody else to the crocodiles." "I'm afraid," said the chief scribe, "that you don't understand. For many months we have sought the one cat in all Egypt that will be able to please the mighty ruler of the great house, King Neterket. May he have life, health, and strength." "Life, health, strength," shouted the minor scribes. "Life, health, strength," echoed the sub-minor scribes. "And so," went on the chief scribe, "when we saw your cat and the mark on his chest, it occurred to us that he might indeed be the one. Under those circumstances, my young friend, we entreat you to come to the great house and allow the Lord of the two lands of Egypt to gaze upon your cat." "Well," Jason said reluctantly, "I suppose he could gaze if he wanted to, but that's all." "Naturally," said the chief scribe, smiling blandly. "No one would dream of forcing you to do anything against your will." "All right then," Jason said, "but don't forget, only gazing." "Your head is full of wisdom," said the chief scribe. "I can tell you now, if you hadn't agreed, you have very likely had to take your chances with the crocodiles." "Yes," Jason sighed, "that's what I thought." The scribes led Jason and Gareth to the river and down a flight of stone steps where the royal barge waited. Once all had climbed aboard, the oarsmen shoved off and began rowing at top speed. For several days, the barge skimmed along the Nile. Finally, Jason asked how long it would be until it reached the great house. "Unenlightened boy," said the chief scribe. "We have been traveling through it since yesterday." Lie down, please. Thank you. At last, the oarsmen docked at the riverbank. The great house, Jason realized, was a whole city in itself, with bakers, carpenters, brickmakers, weavers. Holding Gareth tightly, Jason followed the chief scribe to the biggest building of all. They stopped in the one hall filled with nothing but men marking on clay tablets. Here messengers never ceased hurrying in and out, shouting commands from King Neterket. In the space of a few minutes, from what Jason could hear, Neterket had declared 5 wars, signed 3 peace treaties, and ordered 8,000 stonemasons to begin a new pyramid. There was also a constant procession of slaves dragging in goods of all kinds. The scribes made a great ceremony of scratching down their tallies. The Egyptians, Jason decided, loved to count things. Nobody, as far as he saw, could do anything without mentioning quantities, writing them down, comparing, adding, and marveling at the totals. The chief scribe approached one of the clerks. "In the records of the great house make this notation: this day to the possessions of the Pharaoh, life, health, strength, there should be added 40,000 bushels of grain, 70,000 jars of oil, 3,000 ounces of gold, and 1 black cat." "So it is spoken," said the clerk, "so it is written." "Oh, no, it won't," Jason cried. "My cat isn't one of the Pharaoh's possessions." "It would seem," the chief scribe with a cold smile, "that he is now." Before Jason could turn and race from the hall, the chief scribe scooped the bristling, spitting Gareth from his arms. Jason himself was seized from behind, hustled down a corridor, and most unceremoniously shoved into a tiny room. All right, so we'll have to find out what happens next to Gareth and Jason in Egypt.
See you later. Bye.
All right.